My mother kept that trunk locked for 37 years. When she passed last month, my sisters divided her $16 million jewelry collection while I watched in silence. "Roland gets the trunk," Portia announced with that familiar smirk. "Mother specifically said so." They laughed as they walked out with their fortune. But when I finally opened that old trunk, I found something far more valuable than their millions. A stack of letters, all addressed to me, all unopened. The first line of the top letter made my knees buckle. "Dear Roland, if you're reading this, Beatrice is dead, and it's finally time you learned the truth. You were stolen from us when you were 5 years old. My name is Roland Vance, or at least that's what I believed for 42 years. I teach music at Jefferson Middle School in Connecticut. Kids call me Mr. V, and parents thank me for my patience with their tone-deaf children. It's not the life my mother wanted for me, but nothing I did ever seemed to meet her expectations. Growing up in the Vance family was like being cast in a play where everyone knew their part except me. My mother, Beatrice Vance, claimed to have built a jewelry empire from scratch, often boasting about it at charity galas. She'd wear designer gowns dripping in diamonds and tell the story of how she turned a single store into a multi-million-dollar chain. My sisters, Portia and Cordelia, were her perfect supporting cast. Portia, 3 years older than me, became a corporate lawyer capable of negotiating deals that would make sharks envious. Cordelia, 4 years younger, became a fashion designer whose jewelry appeared in every major magazine. And then there was me, Roland, the son who preferred teaching kids to play hot cross buns over learning the family business. I spent Saturday mornings at school band practice instead of the country club. The disappointment. My father, Gerald, died when I was 15. Heart attack at his desk, calculator in hand, still working on taxes on a Sunday. He was a quiet man who seemed to shrink a little more each year, slowly erased by life with Beatrice. After he died, my uncle Chester stepped in as the family patriarch, loud, commanding, the kind of man who entered a room like he owned it, which he usually did. The trunk had been in my mother's walk-in closet as long as I could remember. Old leather with brass corners, turned green with age. As a child, I was fascinated. What treasure did she keep locked away? At 8, I asked her one day, while she sorted jewelry for a gala, "What's in the trunk, Mother?" She turned to me with a cold look that could freeze July. "That's not for you to worry about, Roland. Some things are better left alone." At 13, curiosity got the better of me. I tried to pick the lock with a bobby pin while everyone was at Portia's debate championship. Mother caught me before I could open it. She didn't yell or hit me. She just ignored me for a month. 30 days of silence at dinner, of being looked through like I was invisible. That's when I learned some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Now she was dead. Lung cancer, though she never smoked. Her funeral was exactly what she would have wanted. Hundreds of mourners, flowers more expensive than my monthly salary, and a eulogy painting. Her as a saint who built an empire while raising 3 children alone after her husband's death. The governor attended. My sisters cried perfectly photogenic tears. I felt a hollow emptiness, mourning someone I barely knew. The will reading changed everything. It wasn't just the trunk. It was Uncle Chester fidgeting, the lawyer's discomfort, my sister's knowing glances. That's how I ended up in Mother's empty bedroom, crowbar in hand, ready to destroy the one thing she left me. I expected old photos, letters from my father, or moldy clothes. I never imagined finding proof that my whole life was a lie, that the woman I called Mother was my kidnapper, and my real family had spent 37 years fighting to get me back. Growing up in the Vance mansion in Greenwich was like living in a museum where I was the only exhibit that didn't belong. Persian rugs covered polished hardwood floors. Original oil paintings hung on cream and gold walls. Every piece of furniture had a pedigree, everything except me. My earliest memory is from age 6, sitting at our massive dining table, while Mother drilled Portia on multiplication tables. "Excellence is not optional," she said, nails tapping mahogany. 12 times 12. Portia answered instantly. "Good, Roland. What's 8 times 7? I froze. Numbers jumbled in my head. 52. I whispered. Silence. Mother's lips pressed thin. It's 56, Roland. Portia knew that at 5. That set the pattern for the next 36 years. Portia excelled academically, graduating valedictorian, attending Yale Law, and making partner before 35. Cordelia excelled artistically, designing jewelry that mother sold. And I discovered music by accident at 10. The piano became my language, my escape. Mrs. Patterson, my teacher, recognized my talent, recommending lessons. Mother laughed when father suggested it. She agreed only if I kept straight B's. That year became a scholarship, a life in music, a career my mother saw as foolish. The day I told them I wanted to be a music teacher, it was as if I'd announced plans to join the circus. Thanksgiving, my junior year of college, the whole family gathered, including Uncle Chester and his wife, cousins, and business associates. A teacher, Mother repeated, fork suspended midair. You're joking. It's what I love, I said. I can make a difference with kids. Portia snorted into her wine. You could make a difference selling million-dollar necklaces too, with better profit margins. Uncle Chester boomed. Roland, be realistic. Men in this family run businesses. They don't teach snot-nosed kids to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Father, quiet as always, pushed food around his plate. Later that night, he told me quietly in his study, "Follow your heart, son." God knows I didn't. 6 months later, he was gone. The trunk had always been there, looming silently. I saw her staring at it during college breaks, sometimes crying in front of it, tears I rarely saw. I learned to respect its privacy. Years later, teaching music at Jefferson Middle School became my life. It wasn't glamorous, but it was fulfilling. Kids' eyes lit up when they mastered a piece. Parents wept at concerts. I earned $60,000 a year, living in a small apartment 40 minutes from the mansion my mother once controlled. To her, I might as well have been destitute. Mother's will reading took place 3 days after her funeral, in Uncle Chester's marble and leather office downtown. Mr. Whitfield, the family lawyer of 30 years, arranged papers with surgical precision. Portia arrived in her $10,000 designer suit, Cordelia in her Range Rover, adorned with her own jewelry. I drove my 8-year-old Honda Civic, circling the block twice to avoid paying $20 for parking. Your mother was very specific about her wishes, Mr. Whitfield began. He detailed smaller bequests. Housekeeper Marion received $50,000. Various charities received donations. Beatrix's first edition books went to Yale. Every detail was calculated and controlled, just like her life. To Portia, flagship stores in New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, Burmese rubies, the Cartier diamond set, $4 million in liquid assets. She nodded, unsurprised. To Cordelia, international branches in Paris, Milan, Tokyo, vintage jewelry collection, workshop and design patents, $3.5 million. Cordelia smiled. To me. He hesitated. To my son, Roland Gerald Vance. I leave the contents of the trunk in my bedroom closet, to be opened only after my passing. The room fell silent. My face burned as Portia laughed. That's it. The mysterious trunk? Uncle Chester tried to hide a smirk. Cordelia looked uncomfortable. Mr. Whitfield continued, explaining the division of real estate. The Greenwich mansion to Portia, the beach house to Cordelia, the Manhattan apartment sold and proceeds split between sisters. My name never came up again. Is there anything else? I asked, voice hollow. There is a letter addressed to you, Mr. Whitfield said, handing me a cream envelope in Mother's perfect script. Inside, Roland, the trunk contains what you deserve. No more, no less. You chose your path, despite my efforts to guide you. Your sisters understand what it means to be a Vance. You never did. Perhaps this will finally teach you the lesson you refused to learn. Some things are more valuable than money, and some truths are better left buried. Portia smoothed her skirt. Well, I have stores to run. Roland, let us know if you find anything interesting in your inheritance. Maybe some moth-eaten clothes or father's old tax returns. Uncle Chester lingered by the window. Your mother had her reasons, he said. Go open it, Roland, but prepare yourself. Driving to the mansion felt like a funeral procession for my dignity. The estate was ready for Portia to move in. Furniture was covered, hallways lined with boxes. The trunk sat where it always had. Smaller somehow, less mysterious. Another insult from a mother who spent my life telling me I wasn't enough. I grabbed a crowbar, hands shaking. 37 years of making me feel worthless. I said aloud, "This is your final joke." The lock cracked. Inside were hundreds of letters, organized by year, tied neatly with string. The return address, A and D Brennan, 4827 Sycamore Street, Riverside. My hands trembled as I opened the oldest, postmarked 2 weeks after my 5th birthday. Dear Roland, happy 5th birthday, sweet boy. We pray this letter finds you. Beatrix Vance has no right to keep you. You were stolen from us. Your real name is Roland Brennan. I am your mother, Anita, and you have a brother, Damon, who cries for you every night. We won't stop fighting. The room spun. Letter after letter, month after month, year after year, told the impossible story. According to Anita Brennan, I wasn't Roland Vance. I had been born Roland Brennan, son of Anita and Gerald, the same Gerald I'd called father. But he hadn't been married to Beatrix. A letter from when I was 10 explained that private investigators had tracked me at school concerts, staying 500 feet away, watching me play piano. Police monitored them. Beatrix had made sure. Legal documents in the trunk confirmed it. DNA results, court filings, dismissed custody petitions, restraining orders filed by Beatrix. Evidence that my life had been stolen. At 25, a letter revealed the full truth. Beatrix discovered Anita was pregnant with Gerald's child, me. Beatrix couldn't have children, but Gerald's daughters were from her affairs. She orchestrated everything when I was 5, the Lake Tahoe vacation, the drugging, the false adoption papers. She had the money, influence, and connections. Anita had nothing but truth, powerless in a world where money bought justice. The last letter was from a month ago. Anita was dying of pancreatic cancer. She never begged for herself, only that I find the letters and return to her. I stood up, letters scattered around me like evidence at a crime scene. 37 years of stolen letters, stolen life, stolen identity. I looked in the mirror on Mother's vanity and didn't recognize the man staring back. Who was I? Roland Vance, the disappointment, or Roland Brennan, the stolen son? There was only one way to find out. I grabbed the most recent letter with the address, my car keys, and drove toward Riverside, 3 hours to decide whether to embrace the truth or turn back. The house at 4827 Sycamore Street was modest. A 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a garden full of roses and a wooden swing hanging from an oak tree, the one I had always wanted as a child. My hands shook as I rang the doorbell at 9:30 p.m. The door opened to a man who could have been me in another life. Same brown eyes, same curved nose, taller, broader, with the build of someone who worked with his hands. His face crumbled when he saw me. "Roland," he whispered. "Damon." Without hesitation, he pulled me into an embrace that felt like coming home after a war. He smelled of sawdust and coffee, crying openly, the kind of raw emotion the Vance family never allowed. He led me inside. Every wall was covered with photographs of me at every stage of life. Little League at 8, a music award at 12, father's funeral at 16, high school and college graduations, and even last month at Jefferson Middle School. Damon explained that Anita had followed me from a distance for decades, hiring private investigators, learning photography, recording every milestone she could. "Where is she? Where's Anita?" I asked. Damon's face fell. She had passed 2 weeks ago, holding on just long enough to know I would find the letters. The grief hit like a physical blow. Robbed of my mother twice, once at 5, again just weeks ago. Damon spread folders with documents, photographs, and newspaper clippings across the coffee table. Gerald hadn't been married to Beatrix when I was born. He and Anita were in love. I was born March 15, 1982. Roland James Brennan. Beatrix, obsessed with Gerald's wealth, orchestrated my kidnapping. She had forged documents, manipulated courts, and built her empire on stolen truth. Chester knew everything. He had vouched for Beatrice, testified that I was always her son. But guilt eventually broke him. He began sending money anonymously, then finally revealed the truth, before Anita's death. The legal battle that followed made headlines. Jewelry empire, built on kidnapped child and stolen fortune. Portia and Cordelia initially fought, hiring top lawyers, but when Chester's testimony became public, DNA confirmed the truth, and forged documents were exposed. Their resistance collapsed. Within 6 months, the empire dissolved. The courts awarded me everything as Gerald's only biological heir in compensation for 37 years of stolen life. $16 million, though no amount could restore the decades I lost. I gave Portia and Cordelia each $1 million. They were victims in their own way, raised by a woman incapable of love. Portia moved to London, Cordelia stayed, and we slowly built a sibling bond. The real inheritance wasn't money. Damon later gave me a box Anita had saved. Birthday cards, recordings of her voice, notes about my first words, favorite toys, songs she sang, and a baby blanket with little elephants, worn soft from her love over 37 years. I moved to Riverside permanently, renovating the house with Damon, discovering our family anew. I continued teaching, starting the Anita Brennan Music Foundation for underprivileged children. Every concert honored her, the mother who never stopped fighting for me. 6 months later, I stood between two graves, Beatrice Vance, her elaborate monument weathering, and Anita Brennan, simple headstone. Beloved mother, never stopped fighting, finally won. I placed roses on Anita's grave. I'm home, Mom. I'm finally home. Some prisons are made of bars. Others are built from lies. We are told so often we believe them. I spent 37 years as Roland Vance, the disappointing son. But I was always Roland Brennan, the stolen child, loved beyond measure, and fought for every day. My real mother gave me proof that I was worth fighting for. The trunk, meant as a final cruelty, became my salvation. Beatrice thought she was leaving me worthless letters. Instead, she left evidence of a love that death, distance, and 37 years of lies could not diminish. $16 million in jewelry couldn't buy what was in that trunk, the truth. The greatest inheritance isn't money or property. It's discovering who you really are, where you came from, and knowing that someone loved you unconditionally. My real mother taught me that. Now every day, I wake up in the home I was meant to grow up in, alongside the brother I was meant to grow with, living the truth I was always meant to know. I was never a disappointment. I was lost, and now I am found. If this story touched your heart, like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with a moment when discovering an unexpected truth changed everything. Subscribe for more true stories that remind us the greatest treasures come in unexpected forms. Remember, the truth always finds a way.